So, yeah, happy Easter, first of all.
Oh, same to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, how's the weather there?
It's gloriously sunny. I've got a window right next to me, and it's
Uh-huh.
just so bright that I've had to pull the blind down. So it's cold outside 'cause in Scotland here. It's still cold, but
Mm.
and we had a bit of snow yesterday. Can you believe?
It's summers, it's still snowing. Can't believe.
Well, it's spring. I'd say it's spring,
Oh,
and
right.
all the flowers are out, and the bees are buzzing around. But yeah, we had a little bit of snow yesterday.
Mm. How are your daughters? Are they fine?
They're fine. Their mum's just taken them to church
Mm.
for Easter. So yeah, and they'll be getting all their Easter eggs later, so they're excited.
Perfect, perfect. So, first of all, I'm really grateful to you that you're doing this conversation and you agreed to do this. And I think you have a really busy schedule and you've taken time out to do this. So, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me, man, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I just read your bio and it said that 4 years you just traveled the world. And you had planned only a year, but you traveled the world for 4 years. Can you throw some light about it? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I know. We just wanted. I mean, I'd already planned this. I think from when I was at university, I thought, right, I'm gonna work for a bit and save some money and go traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I left university, I met my future wife. And she kind of agreed that she'd like to do the same thing. So we got jobs and we saved and saved and saved, and we planned and planned and planned this wonderful round the world trip. And I've still got the piece of paper where it literally says every single day we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do
Wow.
this, we're going to do this. It was planned like by the hour almost. Um, and like all plans, best laid plans. We got to Brazil, which was our first stop, and within a week, we were doing more stuff than was on the list. So we always knew it was going to take longer than a year.
Okay.
So started in South America, Brazil, the whole length of Chile from Patagonia up north, all the way up north to the Caribbean coast in Venezuela. So loads of beautiful places, and that took probably 7 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we hopped across the Pacific to places like Easter Island, which is an incredible place, a place that I'd always wanted to go to. And
Okay.
it was a free stop on this round the world ticket that we had. So we effectively, went there for free, which was amazing. So I went to
Wow.
Easter Island,
Mm-hmm.
Tahiti. And in Tahiti, we went to Bora Bora, which is like, again, a top destination for people. If you want to go on honeymoon to Bora Bora, you're looking at serious money. So again, we've been there for free, and we stayed at this really cheap hostel. But just up the road, there was like a 5-star resort. So we used to just snorkel from the hostel to the 5-star resort.
Wow, that's crazy.
And we met these people, and they just said, I'll just come up every day, and we'll give you food and all this stuff." So we had an absolute wonderful time, and just the snorkeling there was just absolutely magical. Like I couldn't even swim when I left the UK, but by the time I got to Bora Bora, I was, confident in the water. And oh, just every time you got in the water, there were turtles, there were, just every type of fish you could imagine. Just absolutely
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Kind of spoiled. I'm spoiled for snorkeling now. I can't go snorkeling anymore because it's never going to be as good as that. So yeah, places like that, and then New Zealand, which was wonderful. Australia, we were there for about 3 months before we kind of ran out of money and ran out of time a bit on our ticket as well. We struck a bit lucky. We got our passports and everything stolen when we got to Australia, so we
Okay.
lost our airline tickets as well, which were due to expire because they only last a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, oh well, we'll just go to the airport and see if they can reissue them just in case we get to do another flight or something like that. And they reissued them, and we had another year on them. So we ended up
Wow.
with another year
Mm-hmm.
of sort of free flights, which was great, which got us to places like Christmas Island as well, where we went to see the crab migration. It's quite a famous thing. It was on the BBC as when I was a kid with David Attenborough. All these red crabs that come out on Christmas Island and just cover the whole island. We wanted to see that. We kind of missed it time-wise a little bit, but it was still an incredible place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
So did that. Worked in Australia for about 18 months in Sydney. And then we bought a camper van. I did up this camper van. We just bought this beautiful, pristine van that had come across from Japan. I kitted it
Okay.
out with a bed and all this stuff. Had fun doing that, and then we travelled for about another year around Australia, which was just the best time because we were just free. We were just not in a hurry to do anything. We could move on if we wanted. We could stay somewhere if we wanted. We could change our plans. It was just a sort of real relaxed time. And Australia feels like that. It's quite a relaxed place, a relaxed pace of life. But we were just out in the middle of nowhere sometimes in this four-wheel drive van. It was just brilliant time. And the wildlife there as well is incredible. It's because there's not so much fear. There's not You don't have the big predators there, obviously. So the wildlife there is actually quite,
Mm-hmm.
easy to spot and easy to find. Although I've got some
Mm-hmm.
stories about that as well,
Okay.
trying to find koalas and stuff like that. But we can
Wow.
maybe get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, loved Australia. And then we saved up a bit of money, to travel Australia. I worked a little bit more after our travels in Australia, and then went to Africa for about 6 months. And Africa is my favorite continent by a long stretch. Amazing people, amazing wildlife. Yeah, just love Africa, and I would quite like to be in Africa really, but I'm kind of settled here in Scotland with my young kids just now.
Mm-hmm. So you travel the whole world, and I think you turned vegetarian when you were 9 years old, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, here's the story of turning vegetarian. So I'd always been into animals, like a lot of kids are. I didn't really know anything about vegetarianism. It was obviously a thing. We're talking about sort of late 70s, 80s here.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously been a thing for quite a while, and there were a few famous vegetarians, maybe like Paul McCartney and stuff. But yeah, it was quite a random thing that happened. So I'm walking to school one day and I see these kids kicking this thing around up ahead, and I assume it's like a ball. And when I get close, I realize they're kicking this hedgehog because this hedgehog's curled up into a ball to protect itself.
Mm-hmm.
And these boys are just kicking it around like it's nothing, like and laughing like it's a game. I'm 9 years old. I'm not, these are bigger boys. I didn't step in. I didn't say anything. I just walked on by, but it, obviously upset me. And like I say, I've been into animals and stuff, and I'm thinking, right, well, hang on, if I'm so upset by this, how come it's okay to go home and, eat sausages or whatever? So I just literally made that decision, I think on the day or within a few days. Told my mum and dad I'd like to be vegetarian, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of took a while for it to sort of sink in with them. And
Yeah.
for a while I was still getting stuff put on my plate, and I was just leaving it. So after a while, they just realised, yeah, okay. And then my mum decided to go vegetarian not long after as well, which was
Wow,
great.
that's
Which obviously
amazing.
helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which helped me. And she was the same. She was thinking about, she loved animals. She's always loved animals, but she hadn't quite made this connection that if you really love animals,
That's
why is
true.
it okay to eat them on one hand, but have pets and love wildlife and all this stuff on the other hand? So yeah, that obviously helped massively with my mum doing that. Never thought about going vegan at all until quite recently. And I'm little bit ashamed of myself because and it was ignorance, total ignorance as to how cows are treated, how milk is produced even. I never even thought about it. I just thought, right, we get milk from cows, no, not a big deal, doesn't kill them, doesn't hurt them, that sort of stuff. And that's part of the problem. We're just not brainwashed even. We're just sort of we believe a sort of lie that we teach ourselves in a way. I don't think it's a big conspiracy necessarily, although there is a bit of that going on. I think just people are ignorant to what's going on. And there's certain people who don't care and they just think animals are here to be exploited. But when
Mm-hmm.
you do care and then you find out what's really going on, you just can't drink milk or have eggs or something. And for a while I did keep eating eggs because we were getting eggs from our local friends who keep chickens, and they're kept nicely and they're looked after and they're not slaughtered and all that stuff. So it was okay, but I've made the decision now that I don't eat eggs. So I'm fully vegan for about 2 years now.
Wow. How does your body feel like? How does it feel different from being a vegetarian to being a vegan? Does it feel lighter?
What sort of spiritually lighter or physically? I have actually lost a little bit of weight. I'll be honest. I've lost weight. I'm back down to my weight I was when I was in my 30s. I do feel healthy and fit. A lot of people think, you know, they have this sort of image of vegans being pale and
Yeah,
anemic
I know,
and
right? Yeah, that's true.
skinny, and and obviously that happens, and it happens with meat eaters as
Hmm.
well. There's all sorts of reasons that can be, and we do have to sort of be careful about our diets. Obviously, it's not you can't just sort of go into it blindly, which I did a little bit. I'll be honest. I didn't know about B12, vitamin B12 for quite a little time, so I probably
Yeah,
was a bit deficient for a while. But now I'm supplementing it. I didn't notice any ill effects, but I possibly was deficient. So as long as you're aware of it, none of those problems. There's plenty of problems associated with meat eating and dairy as well. And we're not designed to eat dairy. That's the
exactly,
other sort of
exactly.
illusion.
Our systems
Yeah,
aren't designed.
yeah. I mean, there is a case for saying we're omnivorous. It's that is true. We're omnivorous, and we obviously can eat meat, and we can eat meat and be healthy. That's you can't dispute that. But you obviously can be vegan and be healthy as well. But we were never designed to drink milk beyond being a toddler and getting your mum's breast milk, and that's what milk's for. And
Yeah,
that's what people forget as well. They're
exactly.
drinking the milk that was meant for a calf that has been taken away and been killed, basically. And like I say, I was ignorant to that basic. Um, it's obvious, isn't it, when you think about it? How does a cow get pregnant? Or how does milk get made? Only by making a cow pregnant and then taking the calf that was going to have the milk. It's kind of obvious, but
Yeah.
yeah, it never occurred to me.
So there's this anatomy which talks about veganism and milk. So it says that if you are meant to drink milk beyond 2 years of age after you're born till 2 years of age, then why do human mothers stop lactating after 2 years of age? Right?
Yeah, yeah, it's obvious. It's obvious.
And
Yeah,
yeah, so you've traveled to all these countries, Venezuela, Chile, New Zealand, Australia. This, I think, did you uh, find any difficulties finding food? Because a lot of it is just non-vegetarian, right? How did you manage
yeah.
to
Well, I'll tell
get
you
your
what. So I was obviously wasn't vegan at the time. I was just vegetarian. I
hmm
didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't struggle. I was worried when we set off
hmm
that I would struggle to find stuff, and there were times where there weren't many options, but there was always something. And there were surprisingly to me, like places like Bolivia, I have a distinct memory of a vegetarian restaurant. It was just vegetarian stuff, and it wasn't a great restaurant by any stretch, but it was all vegetarian stuff, and I was surprised to find something like that. Like I say, there were always options. I think if I'd been vegan, I would have struggled, especially because we're talking 20 years ago here. It would have been a lot harder. So obviously, I was eating cheese and eggs and stuff at the time. Yeah, I don't know, but the world's moved on a little bit, so I think, yeah, I still think it would be hard for vegans traveling to certain countries. But I'll be honest, I've not traveled that much in the last 20 years. But yeah, I would get if I went now as a vegan, I think I would find it hard, and I would sort of do a lot more research before I set out, I think.
hmm right? And uh, I think you always you do you know how to play instruments? What do you play? Like a guitar, a keyboard?
Well, I can play a little bit of keyboard. I was mostly a drummer. I did drumming when I was a kid. I was
Hmm
always into sort of heavy rock music, and my heroes were all drummers.
hmm
I just really wanted to be a drummer. It was all I wanted to do when I was kind of late teenager. I was writing music for a long time. But my main influence was a guy called Neil Peart, who was in a band called Rush in Canada. They were
Okay.
my
hmm
favorite band for a long time. And he was the drummer. He was a great, fantastic drummer. He's dead now, unfortunately. He died quite tragically. Um, but he wrote the lyrics as well for all the songs. So I just wanted to be Neil Peart. I wanted to be the drummer and the lyricist and sort of, and I had this sort of utopian idea of sort of changing the world a bit through music. So I think music's quite a powerful medium. If you get a song that really connects with you, it can be quite moving, and you get that repetition as well that you don't maybe get in other sort of areas. People will
Right.
listen to a song over and over and over, and it gets ingrained in them. And if there's a message in those songs, I think that's quite potentially quite a powerful medium. I don't see it happening that much these days. That like the day of the protest song and the sort of the songs with messages are pretty much over, I think, which is sad. It's just it's all about relationships and
Yeah, yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah. Mm.
you know, which is important, obviously, but I don't know. There's no I don't often hear a song where I think, oh yeah, the message in that is a strong message.
Coming to this journey of yours, the 4 years you were outside traveling the world, how has
Hmm.
it opened your brain into thinking? What conceptions, what misconceptions were cleared in your mind? Like, how has it changed you as a person? How has meeting different people changed you as a person?
Yeah, I don't think it's changed my. It's probably just reinforced my conception because I was always quite aware that I lived in a rich country and
Mm-hmm.
that, we weren't a particularly rich family by UK standards.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably sort of lower to middle end, but we had everything we needed. We never went without food or anything,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
which everyone takes for granted. Maybe even where you are, people take that for granted.
Yeah.
I had toys, I didn't have everything I wanted, but I had enough sort of thing. So, and I had pen pals and stuff in places like Kenya. So I used to write to kids in Kenya, and you get these sort of letters back, wonderful letters,
Wow.
and that kind of opened my mind a little bit to, you know, other kids don't have what I have, but they seemed happy, and they wrote beautifully, and they loved going to school and all this stuff.
Wow.
So I kind of knew what things were going to be like, and particularly in Africa, I'd say, because I'd say Africa was one of the kind of poor. I don't like the word poor, but I'm going to use the word poor. One of
It,
the poorest sort of continents, and
yeah,
it simply is. It simply is one of the poorest continents. It's been abused by much of the world as well. Um, but coming to Africa, my main view of Africa is that despite high levels of poverty, there's a lot of happiness. So you'd get to a little village in Madagascar somewhere. Let's just say Madagascar, because Madagascar is one of my favorite countries.
mm-hmm.
Again, quite a poor country. You get to a little village that didn't often see tourists, perhaps. All the kids would come running out to you. And yeah, okay, sometimes that you thought, oh, are they wanting money or something? And sometimes you have a little bit of money, you give it out, and they take it and they'd be happy, but they'd still hang around and sort of be with you and stuff. So it wasn't just that they wanted something from you. And sometimes you'd offer something and they wouldn't want anything at all. They just want to come and see you. Always had smiles on the faces, and you go like one place, all the kids didn't have any shoes. Nobody had any shoes. They had sort of old clothing. You could tell it was clothing that had been donated from the UK because it was all sort of brands that you recognized and stuff, and full of holes and stuff. It didn't matter. Didn't have shoes. They had an old beaten up football, and I'd end up going and playing a little football match with them, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like,
Wow.
oh, yeah, how nice is that? And just yeah, they're just happy. They've got enough food. And other places you go where you'd know there was malnutrition, you'd see kids that were clearly malnourished. They'd have the swollen belly and stuff, and it was tragic. And they're obviously, happiness. You can't have happiness in a place like that. But and but they weren't sort of, they weren't hostile to us, even though to some degree they could have been hostile to the rich Westerner coming in.
Definitely,
Because in,
definitely.
in in some ways, not personally responsible, but I am responsible historically in my country
Yeah,
for the way things are in some of these countries.
yeah,
So, and in those places, you perhaps would give out a bit of money, and it would be taken, and it could be used for simply to buy food or medicines or something. So there you're doing a good thing. But yeah, other places where they've got enough food, they've got a bit of clothing, they've got a grotty old football, happy kids, and happy adults as well. We met some wonderful people who just took them into their homes, would give us food, without question. Another time, I left my camera, my expensive camera, on a guy's truck who'd given us a lift for free to this remote village where
okay.
we thought we might see an eye, which is a type of
Mm-hmm.
lemur that we wanted to see. We never saw this eye, but this guy took us to this place. No, we unpacked all our stuff, and then a bit later, I realized, oh no, I've left my camera in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, right, I'm never going to see this camera again. The next day, this guy comes back. He's
Wow.
from a long way away. And he brings my camera back to me. And I thought,
Amazing.
wow,
Amazing
just
people.
yeah. And like of all the places we went, we got robbed twice. Once in Peru, once in Australia. It happens everywhere, all around the world. But for those two times, we probably showed like kindness. 20 times over, 50 times over. So
Wow.
yeah.
So,
So stuff like that makes you realize you don't
um,
need much. You don't need much to be happy, and like kindness costs nothing, and most people are kind, and stuff like that.
so how have these experiences, like you mentioned that you played football with those kids, with those poor kids of
Mm.
Africa, right? Of Madagascar.
Yeah, yeah.
So how have these experiences changed the way you're trying to raise your daughters? Are you trying to do something different with them?
Yeah, again, it's probably not changed it, but more sort of reinforced it. So I do. It's a real struggle in Western society to escape like consumerism, capitalism.
Actually, yeah,
But they get it in some ways, but they're torn because I do try and teach them the message that they don't need things to be happy. Like the best, my favorite phrase in life is the best things in life are free.
free,
So
definitely.
like laughter and happiness and stuff. And we do lots of stuff together. And I try and do things with them that don't cost anything. Like just going to the park, just going for a walk. We can have a beautiful day, just going in the garden and looking for, we've got a tiny little pond in my wife's garden,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got newts in it and frogs in it. So
Wow.
you can find stuff to do that
Yeah.
doesn't cost money, doesn't affect the environment. In fact, it can be good for the environment even. So they love all those sort of things, but they're equally, they like having things, they like owning things, they like to get lots of presents. So, you know, it's a balancing act all the time because there's only so much you can do without making them feel like they're sort of different. So they can't go to a kid's party and be the only ones who don't buy a present for someone and that sort of stuff. So, and I try and do it with their friends as well. So, also as well, I try and get them to sort of think about being vegan. Their mum is a meat eater by nature. She always will be. So that again, there's this sort of balancing act to be done. So they've never been vegan, but
Okay.
they do eat a lot of vegan stuff. And when my wife and I have split up for about a year, but so when they come to my house, they do mostly eat vegan. They're pretty good. And my
Mm.
daughter's just started drinking almond milk as well, so that's really good. So yeah, it's finding, if I'm too sort of strict with them, I don't like to be strict. I like to sort of
Actually,
try and get them
actually.
to think about it. And I would rather they thought about it and thought, right, right, Dad's right, or I understand what Dad's saying now. And that's
Mm-hmm.
happening slowly, a bit too slowly for me, but small steps are better than nothing. So yeah, I try and teach them to be kind to their friends and that sort of stuff as well. We live in quite a nice area in Scotland. And the school they go to is an all-inclusive school. So they see a lot of people in wheelchairs, a lot of people with disabilities, a lot of people of different race. Well, actually, not too many people of different race, but they do see some people of different race, not as much as you would see in other parts of the UK. But they get used to all these things, and it's quite normalised for them. So that's a really positive thing for them living here. Um, so yeah, that they understand about keep treating people with kindness. Do they quite understand about how things are in the rest of the world? Not yet, and I think you do have to almost see it for yourself. And they love animals, but they can't quite, separate eating animals from loving animals just yet. But
I think they're
I'm
young. I
hoping.
think they're very young for that.
Well, they're not. Well, they're one's just turned 9. They're 9 and 11. Um, and part of my thinking with trying to promote thinking about the environment, thinking about animals is the younger you can get them, the better, which is why
Yeah,
I kind of started writing children's books recently too, and
yeah,
going into local schools as well.
yeah. So the voyage you set out 4 years for 4 years. What was the main purpose behind that voyage of that world tour?
Oh, it was just I'll be honest, it was quite a selfish thing. I just literally wanted to see some of the things in the world, like beautiful places, beautiful animals that, I never particularly liked zoos. I'll be honest, I didn't stop going to zoos till I went, um, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And I started to question the morality of zoos a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd never been totally comfortable with it. But yeah, there were just so many things. I grew up watching David Attenborough all the time. David Attenborough was like my hero. And I just wanted to sort of see some of the things. And some of the stuff we did, like we went to Rwanda and saw the gorillas in exactly the same place where David Attenborough sat with the gorillas. It was like going back in time almost.
Yeah,
So that was a wonderful experience. So yeah, just to do some of those things that I'd, kind of learnt about as a kid, but to see for real. And certain places as well, certain places that I just wanted to see. And I know as I couldn't have done that if I was born in a different country.
absolutely,
That
absolutely.
is a
Yeah.
reality. So that's part of my privilege of being a UK citizen is
Mm-hmm.
that even on a modest job, I could save enough money to travel around the world and see all these wonderful things. And I'm quite aware of that as well. Um, and I didn't really consider my sort of carbon impact, particularly while I was doing it, of flying around the world. But
Yeah, yeah.
I've done it now, and I haven't flown a lot in my life as a whole, to be honest, compared to some
Mm-hmm.
people.
Okay. So, if there are a lot of youngsters who want to travel the world and meet different people, explore the nature and the environment, what advice would you give to them? Like, where do they start? Because you left your job, you saved up, and then you started. And now there are Gen
Yeah.
Zs who are just not saving up money. They're wanting to travel, spending their own money. So, what advice or
Mm.
suggestions would you have for them for wanting to travel the world, explore different cultures, meet new people, and do everything?
Yeah, I think just go for it, and but go understanding that you're privileged as well a little bit. I think the great thing about traveling independently rather than sort of just taking holidays. If you take a holiday from the UK, let's say, I said mentioned Bora Bora to you before.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to go on a holiday to Bora Bora from the UK, it's a long, long flight. So you got all that carbon of just doing a 2 week trip, let's say. It's going to cost a fortune. Most of what you're spending is probably going to go to the UK, to this travel agent in the UK, not to people locally. And especially in places like Africa,
Yeah,
if you're doing that same holiday to somewhere like Kenya, you know, for whatever reason, and doing all these safaris, and you're booking it all in the UK, again, it's probably going to cost you more to book it in the UK anyway.
definitely.
Whereas if you just buy your flights, you go out there yourself. And you need time to be able to do this, I guess, but that's what young people have. If they're going on a round the world trip, they've got time, so they can arrive somewhere, find out about things, get a local price for something. And again, they'll save money by doing it,
Right.
but they'll also be putting their money directly into the local economy, which I think is quite an important thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing these sort of expensive holidays straight from the UK, again, you're not spending the money locally. So yeah, it's not going to the right place.
Right.
So I do actually support that independent travel. And again, yeah, yes, you're privileged to be doing it. So be grateful for that and be aware of that when you're in those countries. What I was quite uncomfortable with in some countries is kind of feeling like people are serving you, like
Actually, yeah,
they're your
definitely.
servants because you're there and you've got more money than. And I was never comfortable with that. And I didn't, if I was in a restaurant or something, they came and took your plate or something. And I know it happens. It happens in all parts of the world. It happens here in Aberfeldy. So, if I go to a restaurant, obviously someone's going to serve my dinner, and I don't have that same feeling. But I don't know, just to be aware of it, I think at least, and acknowledge that you're in a lucky position to be there. I think is quite important and don't and go yeah and go to see the culture and go to be immersed and meet people. Don't go to just have fun and go clubbing and just hang around with backpackers. Meet the real people, the people who matter, and yeah, get away from the crowds. I'd probably say as well. Go to places that other people don't go to, and that's when you're going to meet. genuine people, and you'll get welcomed into somebody's little house or something like that. Things like that will happen when you get away from the crowds, and you're not
Right.
just go following the tourist route and just hanging around with backpackers and blah blah blah. And it's nice meeting other travelers, of course it is, and you share stories, and you'll say, oh, you need to go to this place and all that stuff. So that stuff's important as well, but get away from it a little bit as well.
Right. What do you do for a living as of now? What is your source of income in the UK?
Well, my current source, I lost my job just over a year ago, so I
Mm-hmm.
live in quite a rural area, so it's been a bit of a struggle finding local work.
Mm-hmm.
But just temporarily, I'm working at a firewood cutting place.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy runs, who's a friend, the dad of a friend of mine. He said, "Oh, well, I'm looking for someone just now."
Okay.
So basically, we're just turning logs into firewood because quite a lot of people up here still use firewood as a source of as their
Wow.
main own source of heat in
Wow.
some houses,
Mm-hmm.
old farmhouses and stuff.
Right.
So there's a big demand for firewood. I'm not entirely happy about chopping down trees, but they're going to be chopped down anyway. It's managed, it's all managed forestry here. It's not like it's not
Mm-hmm.
deforestation as such. It's
Right.
it's I don't like it, but they're cutting down trees. They get used for timber and fencing and that stuff, and some stuff comes to us to chop for firewood,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's left to regrow. So it's kind of sustainable.
Right. And what is your background? What are you good at professionally?
Well, I originally started out at university. I did architecture, but I came out and struggled to find a job, like many of my colleagues did at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because we were going through a bit of a recession at the time, and the building industry was quite badly hit. So I went into model making at that time, because even when I was doing my degree, I was doing a lot of models to sort of show my buildings and stuff, the architecture that I was doing in
Okay.
university.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did model making for quite a bit, and then saved for my own business actually. So I saved a bit of money from that. Then we went traveling, and I worked in Sydney as well as a model maker, and got into sort of different stuff. So actually, the very first project I did in Australia was actually for a film that we didn't know what the film was at the time, but it was The Matrix.
Wow.
So
Matrix
the
part
company
one.
that yeah, the first one, yeah. So quite a
Mm-hmm.
long time ago. So that they were making a model for the Matrix,
Okay.
and again, we were just making a model, really. We didn't know it was going to be famous or anything, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So little claim to fame there.
Wow. And did you get any work visa in Australia or New Zealand, wherever you stayed for over a year? Did you work in Australia?
Yeah, worked in Australia. I can't remember now. Yeah, I think it was quite easy for us Brits. I think as long as you had a certain professions, you could easily get a work visa. I can't remember now; it's quite a long time ago. But yeah, I worked as a model maker. My wife went to work in a school as a counsellor,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on she went to do teaching as well. So
Were there times
yeah,
where
I think
you, please, yeah, carry on.
I was just going to say I think it's quite easy for Brits. I don't know if it's still as easy these days. I don't know, but yeah, Australian and Britain have obviously got quite a good relationship
Mm-hmm.
because they're basically Brits.
Yeah, actually, yeah, yeah, yeah. So were there any times where you ran out of cash reserves, and what did you do when you faced that situation while traveling?
Running out of cash. No, yeah, we knew we were going to run out when we got to Australia, so we knew we had to stop and find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't actually run out, I don't think, and to be honest, we probably could have borrowed some from our family. But it's funny enough, you reminded me of a nice story from Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Iceland when I was about 19, just on my
Okay.
own. I went camping. This is the days before mobile phones, before a lot of stuff, before the internet. So I just took my camping stuff. I bought a ticket to Iceland, and I bought a bus ticket that took me around Iceland. So that's all I had, and I can't remember, £200, something silly in my pocket. And I was there for 4 weeks.
Right.
And just I was about 3 days from the end when I started to run out of money. And I had two
Mm-hmm.
two really strokes of good luck because I had no way of getting money in those days. I couldn't even phone my parents to say, "Can you send me money?"
Wow.
And they wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
been able to send me money. So I had no money. I was running out of food. Two strokes of luck. I went to a campsite where there was nobody else there. It was just me, and there was like a box where you put your money. And I thought, right, I'm going to take a chance and not put my money in the box. I'm not going to pay for my camping because I'm hungry, so desperate. But and I set up my camp, went to bed, and then this man came along and said, "Oh, you've not paid." I thought, "Oh God." So I had my last note. I can't krona. I think it's krona in Iceland. So I had my last whatever 10 krona. So I handed this guy my 10 krona. It was dark at the time. It was getting dark. It was late on. And I thought, oh, that's it now. I'm going to be hungry for the next couple of days. And then he gave me a note back.
Wow.
He'd given me back more than I'd given him because obviously it was so dark.
Wow.
And I didn't say anything. So I gained a bit of money there. And then a couple of days later, I was still running out of money, and I was sat doing some watercolors of a landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just sat drawing this landscape, and these two travelers came by and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I showed them a picture and stuff, and they said, "Oh, that's really good. Have you got any more?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I've got all these." I showed them some of my pictures, and they said, "Oh,
Wow.
they're really nice." And they said, "Can we buy one off you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you absolutely can buy one off me." 'Cause I didn't tell them I was starving, but so yeah, so I sold a painting. That's probably the only time I've ever sold a picture that I've done before. So yeah, stroke of luck in Iceland. But I absolutely love Iceland. Would love to go back to Iceland. Absolutely brilliant country.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So coming to this book writing thing of yours, how many books
Yeah.
have you written until now?
Well, you know what? I just keep writing. They're just short kids books, so that sometimes I can write one in a week if the sort of inspiration comes, it just gets written in a week. And some of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite ones have been written quite quickly. But I've probably finished at least 20, and I've probably got another 10
Mm-hmm.
sort of midway through, nearly finished. But I just published my first one about a month ago, just yeah, about a month ago on Amazon now.
Do you see yourself as an author 5 years down the line?
Sorry.
Do you see yourself as an author 5 years down the line?
I would love to be doing it full time. I would absolutely love that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, 5 years is probably a realistic time because it takes time to just get established and yeah, get people interested and people buying. That's the struggle with it. Anyone can publish a book these days. It's quite easy to publish, and anyone can write a book. If you write your own book, you can publish it.
That's true, yeah.
It doesn't have to be good. Um, so so yeah, convincing people that it's good is the hard part, and getting people to buy it. Even though, I'm not writing books to make money necessarily. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to be able to make money and not have to work and be able to do it
Wow,
full
yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
But the point of writing a book, I think anyone writing a book, the point of writing a book is you've got something to say and you want people to hear it. You know, not all books have a message, I guess, but even if you're writing a story that's about something, you want people to hear that story. It's not just about making money. Yeah, it's about telling a story or having a message. And for me, it's both of those things combined.
Mm-hmm.
A book's got to have a story that kids can engage with, and the message has got to be embedded in that story. Because if you just, if you where were we? I think I was talking about my books, was I?
Yep, yep, yeah. So you're writing books, and
Yeah,
do you see
I
yourself
can't,
as
I
an
can't, I can't remember what I was saying, but I wanted to say this about something about kids' books, and again, it goes back to what we were saying before about getting kids thinking about things at a young age. And
right?
yeah, not by directly. That's what I was saying. I think before, not about just ramming the message down, sort of saying you must not eat meat and you must not buy
Mm-hmm.
plastics and all this stuff. Just getting to think about things. Because I
Right,
think when they think about things and question things themselves, that's when real change happens, rather than they're just doing something because they've been told to do it. Which in a way is
right.
is how people behave anyway, because they're following what they've been told to do. Um, and it's just the message isn't always the right message that they've been told to do. And I think we all do that. We're just born into this sort of system, and we just repeat what we've been shown without questioning it. So part of it is to get them to question things. And yeah, like I said, if it's in a story, the story's got to engage with them as well. So they've got to be into the story. And another thing about about kids' stories is that they do repeat them as well. They read them again and again, whereas adults will probably just pick up a book, read a book, and then it's forgotten about. Not forgotten about. They might remember it, but they don't reread it. Whereas, I know a lot of my kids' books that I've read to them over the years. I could probably recite them because I've read them to them that many times.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
they get properly embedded in you, and you actually sort of remember them, even as an adult, I think. So yeah, I think it's quite a powerful tool for kids. And I also love the idea, and they're kind of aimed at young kids, so it's kind of a bedtime story sort of thing. That
Mm-hmm.
that parents are there reading it with their kids as well, so that you've got that joint sort of engagement, I suppose. So that the parents are reading it, and the kids are perhaps asking questions and stuff like that with their parents. So
All right.
it's a joined up thing. Whereas if you're, just focusing on the kids or just focusing on adults, there's not that joined up thing. And I think that relationship of parents and kids is a really positive place to sort of get people sow that seed of change, like you said before. So yeah, I didn't consciously go into writing kids' books thinking that way, but I just kind of feel that way now. In some ways, I felt the opposite. I felt it's unfair to sort of put the burden of change onto younger shoulders. But I think if we don't do that, I think adults are just harder to change. It's just harder to get an adult to change their mindset and
Mm,
question things. Kids
yeah.
are much more open to that, and if we get the kids, properly thinking about the future and stuff like that, that's when real change happens because you're not just constantly chasing. If you just only convince the adults and then the next generation come through, and you got another set of people who are doing things differently. You got to change them again. You got to
Yeah.
almost start at the bottom and hope that it ripples up through adults as well now. But at least if it doesn't ripple up through adults, the next generation are kind of going to set the right example for the generation to come, sort of thing. So it's ambitious. It's very ambitious and very sort of utopian. And I don't know
Mm,
if it's going to work, but I just like that idea that kids understand these things as well. They're really open to the idea of sort of looking after the planet and stuff. And yeah, if you tell them the right message and don't misinform them, I think they get it. So yeah, like I was saying, my books aren't totally directly saying do this, do that, but there's kind of sowing seeds. So my first book doesn't have a huge message to it. It's about two rabbits that go to the moon. But the message at the end is they look back at the Earth and they see the Earth as a sort of small disc in the sky, and it's the size of a biscuit. So one of the rabbits holds this biscuit up to the moon, and they just realize how precious the Earth is, basically, and they want to come home. So,
mm-hmm.
not a huge message, but yeah, what was so special about the Earth, that sort of stuff. Getting kids to sort of love the Earth is the simple message in that one. But again,
Mm-hmm.
it's got a nice story that kids will engage with as well, hopefully. So yeah,
Wow.
it's working those two things together all the time of having a nice story and rhyming as well. They're all rhyming stories. And again, I think rhyming is a good way of getting kids to remember stuff. It helps them remember words and stuff, just like nursery rhymes and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, gets things ingrained. So yeah, that's the idea. And yeah, like I said, love to be doing it full time, but yeah, a little way off that just yet.
Have your kids read your books?
Sorry.
Have your kids read your books?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so that first book, for instance, it's called Balloon to the Moon. I probably read it to them 10 times, but without pictures. So, but now
Wow.
it's got pictures, and I'll show you it quickly if you want. I've got a copy here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a proof copy, so it's got a sort of banner across the middle, but that's the
That's
cover.
beautiful. That's actually beautiful.
Um, so yeah, I drew all the pictures as well. So
Wow.
they're
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two
yeah.
rabbits coming back from the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get a very good picture
Amazing.
here. So yeah, and now it's got pictures. It brings it to life, which is almost part of my problem in a way because they're young kids' books. They do need illustrations, and that's the time-consuming bit. And I've got one lovely person who's doing one for free for me. A separate book called Nonny the Unique Unicorn, which is about a unicorn it's not got an environmental message. It's more about sort of bullying and stuff. So it's a unicorn. He doesn't grow his horn like all the other unicorns, so he gets a bit bullied by his friends and stuff. But
Okay.
instead of a horn, he ends up growing wings, so he becomes
Wow.
the hero because he can fly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about fitting in and not bullying each other and that sort of thing. So I've got someone illustrating that for me. That should hopefully be out this year. And I've got another book which is just a series of poems about different animals, and I'm just getting artists to do a single picture for each of those. So that's probably halfway there. So I'm hoping that will be out this year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just about getting kids to love nature, love the earth, and then think about how what they actually do fits into that, which is kind
Why
of the
is
missing piece.
Mhm. Right.
Sorry.
Why is storytelling more important than government policies in today's times for children? What do you think? How is storytelling important?
I think it's massively important for children, especially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, government, they don't understand government policy for a start. I tell you what's great about them. They will accept what they're told though by adults as well. So even though, like I said before, I feel like we're telling them the wrong message, and I want them to question certain things. But there's other things they won't question. So, for instance, at my local school, they started introducing a vegan lunchtime. I think it's once a month. And I
Okay.
said to my kids, "Well, do all the kids not moan about that and complain?" That's how I imagined it would be, that they'd be complaints and stuff. And she said, "No, they just accept it, that this day is a vegan day, and their choices are all vegan." So yes, it's a difficult one. So in a way, if you tell them to, if we just sort of said now, no, everyone's going to be vegan, kids would kind of accept it in a way, which is an odd sort of way to think of things, where adults probably wouldn't. But equally, I think kids need to sort of question the other norms that they're kind of told, that you've got to have all these things, you've got to have the latest phone and all these toys, and you've got to go on holiday twice a year and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is never going to be policy. Okay, there is there's good stuff going on in renewables and stuff, getting our energy a bit
Actually.
cleaner.
Hmm.
And I worked in renewables for a long time. I was working in hydroelectricity for a long time. So in Scotland here, we're doing quite well with it. I think Iceland actually, because I mentioned Iceland before, Iceland's one of possibly the only country that's got a zero um, carbon emissions from energy production, which is down
Wow.
to its
Mm-hmm.
geothermal energy, which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, but here we're doing quite well. But again, we've got money. We're a rich country. We can afford it. We can afford all the steel and stuff. And when you know the sort of the background, all these wind farms we're putting up, they're brilliant. And for the future, it's brilliant. But short term, they're creating a carbon spike because of all the carbon involved in creating the steel and putting in just creating these wind farms, particularly the offshore ones. They're just using huge amounts of concrete and steel and stuff. So it's going to take a while before they pay back. But,
Mm-hmm.
we've got to do these things. But on the other hand, we're not focusing on demand enough. We're just constantly supplying mankind's demand. Like, we want more, we want more, we want more. How
Hmm.
do we supply more? How do we supply more? And that's just
Hmm.
like the wrong way to be thinking
Mm-hmm.
about things, I think. It's about it's based on supply rather than what the earth can physically, no, it's based on demand, sorry, rather than what the earth can physically supply, which is what sustainability is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
If there's not enough of everything for everybody to have a car, for instance, if there's not enough steel for 8 billion people to have a car, why should anyone have a car? And things like that. So that's the way we need to sort of be thinking. And obviously, we're not going to get to a point where we don't have cars, particularly. Although that sounds like a lovely idea, but
Well,
yeah,
actually,
just
actually.
well, it does, doesn't it? It does. Well, that maybe that is the way we should be thinking. Possibly that is the way we should be thinking, and that is the way I think with a lot of things. I get my kids to think this actually, and their friends as well. Like when they go and buy a plastic drink for their lunch, which my kids don't do anymore, and
Wow.
if they do, they get
Okay.
in trouble. Right. So I tell them just take your water. You got a water bottle in your bag that you use every day. You don't when you go like Friday lunchtime. My eldest daughter, who's 11, they get to go out of the school and they go and buy their lunch in town to give them a bit of freedom and get them used to sort of shopping and stuff like that. So yeah, the first couple of times she came back with this lemonade that she'd bought, and I said, but you bought that bottle. I said, "Oh, everyone's doing it." And I said to her, "Right, if 8 billion people in the world buy a single plastic bowl, it stretches all the way to the sun."
To eight. Hmm.
All the way to the sun or 40 times around the earth, right? It's huge, right? And you either take the thing that like, I deserve a bottle, but nobody else deserves a bottle, so I'm going to have a bottle. Or
Okay.
do you take the view that everyone's equal, the world should be fair? So if I buy a bottle, every other one of the 8 billion people in the world are allowed to buy a bottle. They don't, but in theory, they're allowed. So that's how much plastic you're using just by buying that one drink, which seems like a silly thing. And I wouldn't say like nobody's ever allowed to buy a plastic bottle of drink, but that's the way I think we need to think. It's about entitlement, I think. So am I entitled to have all these things when there's 8 billion people in the world who, if they copied me and did what I did, this would be the consequence of it. So that's kind of, and it's the same with what we eat as well. If you look at the sort of maps of how diet affects what the Earth can supply,
Hmm.
places like America and Australia, they're using 2 planets worth of resources, basically of land, just simple land, to supply what their normal diet, based on the fact that if everyone could afford that diet around the world, which again they can't, and luckily they can't, because if they could afford it, we wouldn't have an Earth anymore. We'd have totally destroyed it by now.
Yeah.
It's only because we've got this gross inequity, which people don't see as well. And everyone would, if you said to people, "Do you want a fair world for everybody?" I don't think anyone would say, "Oh no, I don't want that."
Okay.
But they want it, but they don't want to give up anything. They don't want to give up their lifestyle. They don't want to give up
Hmm.
having their big house, their holidays, blah, blah, blah. But the simple fact is, if you multiply what the average sort of American or Brit, and I'm not going to pick on America, Brits are the same, by 8 billion and say everyone can have everything that we've got, it just isn't enough to go around. So
Yeah.
that's a core issue for me is getting people to understand that yes, they want a fair world, but they want the lifestyle that they've got. I mean, it's just not, it's just simple maths. It's just really simple maths. And
Right.
yeah, that feeding into sort of people think the future, yeah, we're going to bring up the sort of developing countries to our standard of living. So everyone's got a great standard of living. It's just not, it's physically not possible. And the other point about that is going back to what I was saying about happiness.
Hmm.
It's not happiness either. People mistake happiness in certain parts of the world, like here, for owning stuff and having stuff and spending money and earning money, and they'll devote their whole lives working hard in stressful environments sometimes, doing jobs that don't necessarily have any meaning, any purpose, to gain money in order to have a house, have a car, and then to have children and to get their children to do exactly the same again. And kind of forgetting what happiness is. And like I said, best things in life for free. Okay, we do need money. You can't get away from the fact that we need money for certain basic things. But as long as you've got your basic things, your food, your water, sort of security, whatever, friends, you know, what else do you need to make you happy? And if you can't buy happiness. Buying things doesn't make you happy. It's been proved a million times. And again, people would agree with best things in life for free. They'd think that's a great thing to say, but they just can't live by those things. And that's
That's
another
true.
sort of, yeah.
Do you
But
have?
to be fair, I think there in India, I think that's possibly something that's quite well embedded. But I feel like you're also coming down this sort of consumerist road that we've all gone down of thinking like we need stuff, we need to buy things, we need to have things. I don't know. I don't know if you
Mhm.
agree with that.
I think because right now we're in the phase that India is developing, right? The phase Britain had back in the 1930s, 1940s. We are in that phase
Yeah.
right now. So I think we are blinded by the fact that we need more because a lot since a long time, since centuries, we've lived in that poverty. So I think now since we have the access to resources, people are getting maddened by it.
Mm,
If you're having access to five things, you would want five of them. You wouldn't think about it that my choice is gonna impact the planet.
mm.
I think it
I,
has a historical connotation to it, but I can't help it. There are people who are trying to, you know, educate the masses about climate change and its allied intricacies, but I think it's more for the upper caste, for the,
yeah,
people who are
yeah,
privileged.
yeah.
The low middle class, they can't fathom or understand these facts. They just can't.
Well, yeah, because they're literally living day to day, aren't they? Surviving, basically, it's survival, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah,
Which I totally understand, and it feels so unfair for sort of myself from a Western country to sort of suggest that people in other countries, well, no, you shouldn't be wanting all the things that I had probably, you know. But it's a reality, and that's why and I don't force it down. I don't know. I don't know what the right word is. I think it's more important to engage with people in the developed world anyway. But equally, we can't let the developing world come down the same path that we've been on. It's literally not sustainable.
mm. Do you have these conversations with people every day? Do you have such conversations with people every day?
No, I don't particularly. No, not face to face. No, possibly on sort of social media and stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And does it sadden you? Has it ever saddened you when any of your daughters doesn't agree to what you say?
Yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah, of course it does. But yeah, it's so difficult because it's such a normal thing. Um, that yeah, I never blame anybody individually for the
That's
way
true.
they think and the way they act because
Mm-hmm.
it's conditioning, it's following the crowd. Um, so yeah, like I said before, if you can teach people to sort of question things and question why they're following the crowd, that sort of stuff, or just to acknowledge that they're following the crowd even is a big step. Um, yeah, and remind them of all the things that are great in life that don't aren't costing the earth. Like just going out to see wildlife and stuff like that. I mean, we're almost doing the opposite. Like we're finding pleasure in things, or just trying to find pleasure in things that are damaging the things that that were free and could give us pleasure, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of like, it's almost like one is destroying the potential of the other. Yeah. Sorry, my daughter's just come in. Can I just have a quick chat to my daughter?
Yeah, it's fine. Completely fine.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Amos. Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely, Iris. Can I quickly show Manon? Iris has made a little Easter card. This is my daughter, sorry. So she's made a little Easter card. Show him how it works, Iris.
Wow. What did it say? Happy basket.
No, Happy Easter. So it's a little Easter egg, and you
Wow,
open it
this
up.
is
You,
beautiful.
you open it up, and it says Happy Easter.
Happy. Yeah, wow. That's beautiful. Hi.
Well done. It's for me as well. Right. Is it for the whole world, Iris? Right, beautiful. Right.
Amazing.
No, that's fine. Right, I'll come and see you in a minute, I promise. Don't Not on my drawing, Iris, not on that drawing. Sorry. Right. Right, sorry, man.
No, it's completely fine. Do you have time?
Yes, I've got time. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So, if you could change one thing about how society thinks about the environment, what would it be?
Um, I think it's simple, just to understand that we are part of the environment. I think there's too many people think, well, I was just said to actually live in the world you're in. So that's exactly what I'm thinking. So these are Iris's words. So actually live in the world you're in, the world of a 9 year old, the words of a 9 year old, sorry. So yeah, this is the, people forget they're actually stood on the earth and like feel like the earth is something, a thing that's separate. They forget that they're, even their house. And I get people to think about this in the group that I run, that, where you're living now wasn't always like this. It used to be wilderness. Like if the whole world was wilderness sort of 20,000 years ago, something like that.
Right.
Sorry, I just
So like you're in the world in a device, you're like so shocked, and
yeah.
you're not even shocked when you're in that world.
Yeah, so she's saying as well, people get lost in the sort of the virtual world as well. So the virtual world is
Wow, that's
another
so
massive issue,
true.
isn't it? People are so fixated with the phones and their screens and stuff. And she'll admit she is as well. But that there's such a false world, and it's such a pull for kids as well. That's another massive issue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so connecting with nature, but understanding that you're part of nature, I say is a key thing. It's not separate to you. We're all part of it. We should all respect it. It supports us. We are part of an ecosystem. It doesn't feel like it because we've created so many systems that feel counter to that. But we are part of the ecosystem. And are we a positive part of that ecosystem? No. But we can be. But we can be a really positive part of that ecosystem. And if we don't, it's the end for everybody. It's the end for, and I don't believe, no, we can destroy all life on Earth. I just don't think that's possible. I think life is pretty tough, actually. But I think we could certainly destroy ourselves. And in some days, I wake up and think that's a good thing. Other days, I think, I've got kids. I don't want suffering um,
Mm-hmm.
for my
Right.
kids
Yeah.
or for any future generation. This is part of empathy. It all comes down to empathy for me. Empathy for animals, empathy for other people in different situations, empathy for your next door neighbor, whatever, somebody around the world who's not got as much as you've got, and empathy for people in the future and animals in the future, even. So if you have empathy for an animal in the future that hasn't even been born yet, right, I think you're onto a winner because you're thinking about, right, what's the world going to be like in 100 years? Is it going to be able to
Mm.
support elephants, whatever, penguins? We're seeing all these things getting marginalized,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's important, and it's not important just because we like elephants, just because we like penguins. It's just life. It's just life on Earth. Life is incredible. Like, it's the one thing that sets us apart from the trillions of other planets and stars out there. We've got life on this planet, and it's just magic. And yeah, that'd be my main sort of thing. Yeah, empathy for life itself, and don't treat it so casually that you can just, you know, kill a pig for your dinner. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
For some reason, you sound like David Attenborough.
Do I? I
Actually,
just want
yeah.
to. It just might be my English. I should have worn my blue shirt. Oh well, I've met David Attenborough a couple of times. As a kid, I went to a couple of book signings, so I've got a couple of books signed by his. And I'll just
Wow.
if it's one last thing I could maybe do, I've got one book that I wrote for David Attenborough, and it's called The Lost Planet, and it's about these
Mm-hmm.
two aliens. These two aliens who are flying from their home planet Splux, looking for this mythical planet that they've read about in books and stuff, and obviously it turns out to be Earth, and they discover it, and they discover all the wonderful animals here, and they go to different places and find all the beauty of Earth, and then
Mm-hmm.
they also see all the bad stuff as well. They see cows getting slaughtered, not quite graphically like that, but yeah, basically cows getting put into a slaughterhouse, turned into meat. They see animals put into zoos. They see deforestation. They see ocean plastic, all this stuff, and they're just amazed by how badly the Earth's been treated, and they find the people as well eventually, and basically they fix everything because it's a kid's story. It's got a happy ending. They
Wow.
they fix they
Mm-hmm.
fix all the problems in the world for us,
Okay.
and yeah, and it's kind of a tribute to David Attenborough. And then there's a sequel where the humans go back to planet Splux and fix some of their problems, and David Attenborough goes with them. So he's actually in the second book as well. So
Wow.
I've had an audio version done of it because I've not had time to do the illustrations for it. So I've got an audio version, and when it's his 100th birthday, which I think is in May, he's going to
Hmm.
be 100 years old, which is just staggering. Yeah, I'm going to sort of launch this audio version of the book in David Attenborough's honor.
Wow, I'm just waiting for this so much. I want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's not quite finished, so there's a few edits for the girl to do, but yeah, it sounds really good. Sounds really professional. I love it.
I know, right? Yeah. So, what do you have in a day for a meal? What does your normal meal look like?
I have a lot of like stir fries and stuff like that. I do like a stir fry, so I'll just fry up whatever vegetables I've got in the fridge normally, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a bit of tofu. I don't always have tofu and stuff, to be honest.
Okay.
Often it would just be vegetables with a sort of sauce, a bit of spice.
Yeah, so what do you have? You have stir fries and you've got vegetables and tofu during the day.
Yeah, that's probably a fairly typical meal for me. Yeah, I don't go out for meals that much anymore, to be honest. It's quite limited around here. I live
Mm-hmm.
in quite an area where I'm surrounded by fields and sheep and cows
Wow.
and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
the people I work with, like one of the ladies I work with, is a sheep farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy I work with, he drives the cattle and the sheep to the slaughterhouses. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm surrounded by people who aren't particularly vegan.
Uh,
But yeah, no, yeah, like I said before, my kids, I don't often tell them they're eating a vegan meal. If I said, "Oh, do you want a vegan meal?" They'd probably say no. But I just give them something to eat and they'll eat it. So that's a
mm-hmm.
good way of getting kids to do stuff as well. They just, like I say, they accept some things like that.
Uh, what does your day look like? When do you wake up? How do you go for a walk? How do you commute? For people who are Indians, they want to know about how people live in Scotland. If you could just throw
Yeah,
some
okay.
light.
Well, again, because I live in quite a rural area, I do drive to work. It's not that far. I could walk it in about an hour, but it's
Okay.
uphill. It
Mm-hmm.
would be a long walk. And plus, I drop my kids at school, so it's too much out of my day to do that. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
say until I was 40 years old, I never drove to work. I always walked or cycled to work. So, but yeah, nowadays it's about 6, 7 miles away. It's uh, yeah, about a 5 minute drive. And I go past my kids' school anyway on the way, so I drop my kids at school, drive up to work, come back to pick them up from school. Yeah, take them to the park or whatever if it's a nice day, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, come home for dinner. Um, Usually go on LinkedIn for a bit. Hopefully, either do some writing or do some drawing for my stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty fun. My the great thing about my job is it's not stressful. It's quite physical work as well. Chopping wood. It's all on machinery, but there's a lot of sort of manual moving around of stuff, and you're quite active all day. So that's
Mm-hmm.
probably increased my fitness because my previous job I was just sat at home,
Right.
um,
Right.
typing on a laptop all day. Not good for
Mm-hmm.
your physical health. Not good for your eyes and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't mind it. And you get to see wildlife up there as well. There's been t frogs jumping around the shed all day, doing mating. Actually, to be fair, they're all in pairs.
Right.
We get owls in there. We get swallows come and nest in the roof every year, so they'll be coming back soon.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's quite a nice job in that respect. Like I say, not a stressful job. I don't think about it when I'm not there. And it's flexible as well. I can pick the kid if I have to take the day off with the kids because they're ill. I just take the day off with the kids. It's not a problem. And then weekends, yeah, try and go for walks if we can. Scotland is a beautiful place for walks, and again, I can go for a beautiful walk here. Well, loads of different beautiful walks without having to drive. So we can just set off from the house and we can go some beautiful places, lovely waterfalls, that sort of stuff. Not a huge amount of wildlife, I'll be honest. Most of it's farmland around here. But it's still nice. Even though I'm against animal agriculture, I like to see lamb. The lambs are out in the fields now, running around in the sun. It's beautiful to see. It's sad to think it's Easter Sunday. You know, 2 million lambs are going to well, have been slaughtered already for just for
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
today.
Hmm.
So really sad, and I hate all that sort of dissonance of yeah, people love lambs. They love to go and see the lambs, but they're quite happy to eat the lambs as well. And the same with little fluffy chicks and all that stuff. So, but yeah, weekends we try and do walks, go to the park. Like I said, try and do things that don't cost too much. Yeah, I don't have a TV. I don't have a TV,
That's
so
amazing. That's amazing.
well, yeah, well, that's your reaction there. That's amazing. Why is it amazing? It's actually, we're so, that's one of the things that I kind of question, especially after sort of moving away from my wife. Like, I questioned everything that I've got in this house. Do I really need that? Do I really need this? What do I actually want and need? So yeah, just questioning stuff like that. Why do we have a telly? I'll be honest, I hardly ever watched the telly before. My wife's got three tellies. There's one in the living room, one in the extension, and one in her bedroom. And and sometimes they just go on and they're just there in the background. Just what's the point? And just unless you're
Yeah.
going to watch something really good. And I'll be honest, they can watch on the laptop. They can get. I've got Netflix on my laptop. It's not like they never get to watch TV. But again, they've accepted that as just normal. It's normal for them when they come to dad's. There's no TV, and we do other stuff instead. So yeah, all those sort of things. Just we just get in a habit of things are a habit for so many people. I've got to do this is what people do. They go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed. So they spent their whole lives. Some people literally spent their whole lives watching TV. Old people do it.
I swear to
And
God.
yeah, I mean, probably in this country more than any other. And I'll go, I've got lovely neighbours. So many of my neighbours on this street are old people and they live on their own because their partners died. And it's, and they must be lonely and it's sad. So, to fix the loneliness, they either have a dog or they watch TV all the time, and it makes some sense, but it's kind of sad. And that's another aspect really about sort of the way we treat old people and the way we feel about community and that sort of stuff, which again is something that probably India's moving towards. Even that, not looking after your grandparents, that sort of thing. Grandparents here would always you know, get sent to an old people's home. Not always, but mostly that would be the normal thing. Is that when somebody gets too old to look after themselves, they'd go to an old people's home. And I'm not saying old people's homes are bad, but some of them are really bad and they get abused and stuff. But that's another
Yeah.
story.
That's very saddening, actually.
Yeah. But it's almost equally sad that others will be sat in their own homes, not getting much social contact, and again, like I said, just watching TV, and that is their life, just to and they'll get visited, once a year by grandkids and stuff. Hopefully, some of them won't have grandkids,
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's all that aspect of sort of community being lost a little bit as well, and that's another aspect of happiness, I think. What is happiness in a community? And we have become quite sort of isolated and we lock ourselves in. We literally lock ourselves into our houses. And I'm quite lucky here. I don't lock my front door when I go to work, and I feel safe enough that I don't have to. I don't have a lot of expensive stuff anyway, but I don't feel like I have to lock my front door, whereas most people would just by habit lock their front door. And it does make sense, obviously. You don't want to get burgled, but it's just how sad is that we feel we have to do that, and I feel like we lock ourselves into our homes. Um, yeah, don't socialize, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'm in that sort of description as well. Don't
Hmm.
socialize enough, don't connect enough with people, and that's probably partly why we have such a huge number of cats and dogs and stuff like that, which is another issue partly for me. Um, in that we've replaced nature almost with cats and dogs and companion pets, and for kind of good reasons.
This is the first time I've had to send meeting links 3 times to a person.
I'm so I'm so sorry. You got me talking about stuff that I like talking about. I don't normally talk very much, man, and believe it or not.
No, but to me, you sound like a very honest person. You're very sound, and I think you speak what you actually believe. You don't try to make things up.
Well,
You
you,
don't try
you
to
well, you know
fabricate
what?
things.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's a really a great compliment to me. But I tell you what you'll be surprised at. I don't read very much. I don't listen.
I don't
I
think
don't spend a
so.
lot of time researching and stuff. I've turned vegetarian because of what I felt inside me, well, not because of anything external particularly. The way I feel about the planet is, yeah, like you say, it comes from inside, and I suppose that is the challenge then of convincing other people, isn't it? Because so much of it does come from inside. If people don't have that inside them, I like to believe people do, and I like to believe people, want the world to still be viable in 100 years for their future generations, that sort of thing. Yeah, how do you get them to get that out of themselves? I don't know. And we were talking about cats and dogs a minute ago. So that yeah, part of what I'm thinking and a lot of what I write just recently is about comparing, dogs and pigs, for instance, very similar animals. You know, if you look at all the sort of qualities, they've got the same qualities. They're affectionate, they're intelligent. Some
Yeah.
studies say pigs are more intelligent than dogs, and they can, learn tricks quicker than dogs, this sort of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not as perhaps not as furry and cuddly, but essentially they're the same. And they've obviously got feelings. Nobody can deny they've got feelings, that they understand pain and fear, and you know they want to be free and all this stuff. I don't think anyone could deny that. But yet, we treat them just so oppositely. And I find it really disturbing. And so I frequently these days I'm almost targeting people who love dogs so much, because I think these are people that clearly love animals. They've got empathy, they've got love for animals, and trying to sort of just get them to think, right, if a dog it can mean this much to me, I can be, there's a beautiful story about a dog being rescued in New Zealand, and all these people came to help, and they got a
Mm-hmm.
helicopter in.
Wow.
It was in the mountains. They got a helicopter in. Loads of people raised money to pay for this helicopter. Loads of people went and volunteered to rescue this dog. It's a beautiful story, but at the end of the day, it's one dog. And then I'm thinking, right,
On the other
if you
hand, they're
stop it.
killing
On the
animals.
other hand, yeah, they will all, most of those people, let's assume some were vegan, most of those people will happily just go, after going to rescue this beautiful dog, go down for their dinner and buy some dead pigs or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get them to think,
Mm.
why we like this. And there are obviously reasons, like I say, dogs are beautiful. I've got nothing against dogs. I've got a little bit against cats because they go out and destroy a lot of wildlife, um, but I still love cats. But yeah, we've
Right.
become so fixated on our dogs and cats, and I see it happening in China and India and places as well, like going down the same. And it's almost like, oh, we've got to have a dog, we've got to have a dog, and people
Mm.
have them for the wrong reasons sometimes. And some people
Yeah.
just love animals, so they go and rescue dogs from shelters, which is a nice thing to do, lovely thing to do. I won't take that away from anyone. But for other people, it's like the kids wanted a dog because it's like a toy almost, and they're not getting looked after properly and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And then they're the dogs that end up in the shelters, and other people give up their time and their money and stuff to look after these dogs that have been abandoned and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is all great. And I just want like a tiny, tiny percentage of that love that we show for dogs and cats and stuff to be shown to pigs and chickens, and it's just the balance is so far shifted, and wildlife as well. Wildlife is taking a hit as well. Just because mostly because of destruction, just destruction of habitat and stuff. There's just so little wildlife out, and then the ocean as well. The ocean is getting destroyed. If you see the ocean with David Attenborough, it's just the rate that we're pulling fish from the sea is just again, we're just we're digging our own grave. We're basically digging our own grave whilst we're doing all this damage at the same time. It's There's no logic to it. There's no compassion to it. It's just
Hmm.
blindness. It's just blindness to stuff, you, and you just want people to see and understand, and then act on what they see. So yeah, and while I love dogs, I almost feel like dogs are getting in the way of a little bit because people think, right, I love animals, and I'm going to put all that love into my dog, and
That's
then they
so
just
true. That's actually true.
so they're blinded to everything else, and they think they're doing good, and they are doing some good, a little bit of good,
Hmm.
but they're blind to a lot of other stuff that is going on under their noses, literally under their noses, that they're supporting, or ignoring, or something like that. But yeah, so
Yes.
I'm not anti dogs and cats. I'm just pro all the other animals as well. So sometimes I might come across as anti dogs when I post some stuff, but I love dogs.
Great. My question to you is, since you've turned vegan, how many years since has it been since you've turned vegan?
Fully vegan 2 years, but dairy's been gone for about 6 years.
Okay, so my question is, how has turning from a vegetarian, like turning from a non-vegetarian diet to a vegetarian diet and then to a vegan diet, do you think this has changed you as a father? Has it changed the way you're bringing up your kids? Has it made you more empathetic towards your daughters? Has it changed you internally?
No, see, I don't think it's changed me internally, and I think this is probably I don't know. Yeah, no, it's not changed me internally because I was that person. I feel like I was a vegan, but I was
Mm-hmm.
I was well pre. I like the word pre-vegan, which is
Mm-hmm.
a term I heard recently. So everyone, in a way, everyone is a pre-vegan, so they're
Mm-hmm.
yet to realise that they want to be vegan, possibly. And I honestly think if you'd come to me when I was probably younger than 9 and said to me, right, this is how milk is produced, this is how eggs are produced, you know, and I could understand. Everyone can understand meat. You also got to kill an animal to get meat, but I didn't understand milk and I didn't understand eggs. But if you'd come to me with the truth, or anyone had come to me with the truth, I think I would have just gone vegan straight away. And it'd have been difficult in those days, but it was in me. I didn't lack the empathy.
Actually,
I just
yeah,
lacked I just lacked the knowledge. I just didn't understand, and I didn't question it myself, which is my fault. But equally, nobody told me that. And it's staggering how many people are actually ignorant, to the simple fact that a cow produces milk because it's been given birth to a calf. They don't realize that simple fact, even obvious as it seems. And I was in that position, so I can't judge those people, but all I can do is sort of share that information. And yeah, and you like to think that a lot of people have that empathy there, that when they learn those things, that will initiate a change. And as I'm certain as well, there's people who don't have any empathy for animals. They do genuinely see animals as a resource for humans, and you've probably got no chance of changing those people. But I think if you get enough people to change, it becomes normal. And I don't think I'm never going to see a vegan world in my lifetime. I'd like to think it's possible long term, and I think it's almost actually necessary for the world to survive in terms of environmental impacts and everything. That's the other thing as well. I love veganism because there are no downsides. There are really no downsides to veganism. If you stop, if everyone went vegan today, somebody said to me once actually on a post, if everyone went vegan today, it wouldn't make any difference. And I just could not believe what I was hearing. And there's obviously somebody who didn't want to be vegan, but we wouldn't fish anymore. The oceans would just bounce back so quickly. I mean, they really would. The oceans
that's
would
true.
be full of stuff. Oh, well, okay,
Yeah,
there's other problems in the ocean. There's plastics and stuff, which is a different issue as well. And there's obviously climate change, warming the oceans, that stuff. So there are still issues, but it's not helping that we're overfishing as well and dredging up the seabeds and all this stuff. So that problem would go away. Um, I think most of deforestation would probably go away as well because we're clearing most land for grazing land, and we could actually return so much land to be rewilded and increase biodiversity and all that stuff, which obviously takes time again, but we can do that. Climate change as well, the huge methane emissions from cattle and stuff are contributing quite a huge proportion to that. And again, if we rewild the land that the cattle are on, we're drawing in carbon as well. So it's got two sides to that. I mean, there really are no downsides, and people try and justify it in all sorts of different ways. Evidence is there. We can survive. We can be healthy. We can actually be healthier. You know, Great sportsmen. The two greatest tennis players of all
Roger
time, male and
Federer.
female, are both, and Djokovic have been vegan. There's no reason, literally no reason to eat meat anymore. And once you understand the dairy industry, eating dairy is no different really from eating meat. You kind of just bypassing the slaughter bit slightly, but
Mm.
actually, in retrospect, I find the dairy industry is actually crueler than the meat industry. The way because they're treated put appallingly in life, and then they're slaughtered. Whereas, I'll be honest, you see around here. I told you I've got fields around here with cows and sheep. They're quite happy when they're out in the fields. I don't have issues with that particularly.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not free, but they're reasonably free. They've got sunshine, they've got grass, they can run around. It's quite nice. But and so the only thing I object to there is that one day they're going to be slaughtered. You know, and that's a
yeah.
huge thing for me.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people are just blind to that fact as well. They see the lambs in the field, and then they forget that it's the same lambs that are going to end up in the shops. They think it's like different lambs, and these lambs are going to grow up and have a lovely life. But because the next year they see another set of lambs, and they think, oh, there's more. The lambs are still there, sort of thing. So it's just this, but no, they're just constant cycle of death, basically, isn't it? And rebirth. So yeah, people don't think of those sort of things either. But yeah.
Are you open to compliments?
I'll tell you what, I am open to compliments, but I take criticism to heart. I think a lot of people do. I take criticism to heart much more than I take compliments to heart. But
Hmm.
who doesn't like getting a compliment? Yeah.
So while you're talking, uh, the picture I had of you in the mind was that you are very softly passionate about the environment and the world. I mean, you understand the fact that people have their own choices, just like you're bringing up your daughters. You understand the fact
Yeah.
that people have the choices and you don't want to force them into veganism or sustainability. But at the same time, you're
Mm,
passionate about bringing about a change from your own side by writing books, by talking to people, by trying to
mm.
help people into making conscious choices about what they want to do, like about what they're having in their everyday life, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, uh, you're talking since so long, and it makes me really glad that you actually took out the time to speak so much and you're writing books. I just hope that you're super successful in your life. I just hope that
Oh,
before uh, you retire or whatever, you get to see that a lot of people in the world have turned vegan. Uh,
well, yeah. That is the aim, isn't it? That's what people don't understand a bit as well. But people often say about vegans, like you've got an agenda, and like you are trying to force something. And some people, I would love to be able to force people to do it, but it doesn't work that way, does it? You've got to
exactly.
get people on side, and you've got to be friendly. And I am friendly. I'm not an angry person. I,
Yeah,
yes,
actually, it
yes, I
looks
would
like it.
love. Yeah, yes, I would love people to stop eating meat. It's obvious, isn't it? And that's what they don't kind of grasp in a way that you're not doing something for you. It's not for you. It's not for me that I want
Hmm.
you to not eat. those animals in the field over there that I
Exactly,
can see.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
it's for
yeah.
them. It's
Mm,
for them. I don't want them to be born to die. That's all I want. And if we were in a vegan world now, we would, you know, we would just be free to do what we want to do as well. That's part of the issue for me as well. I feel like it's same with sustainability as well. Like so many people dedicate their lives to trying to get, to make change, and there's a lot of resistance.
mm-hmm.
You are literally dedicating your life to it when you could just have been having fun. It's not that much fun, is it? Trying to Yeah, and you learn so much as well when you get into it. You learn about new horrors come up every day for me about how animals are treated in different ways in different places. And it's hard, it's sad, and you cry some days, and some days you think, oh, this is all pointless, and some days you just don't want to get out of bed, sort of stuff. And you force yourself to do it, and you do things like this, and it reminds you that you're not the only one. I'll be honest, like for a long, 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 long time, I didn't know anyone. No, I didn't know any vegans for a start. So possibly if I'd met some vegans, I might have gone vegan a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a few vegetarians. I didn't really know anybody who I really felt, you know, was the same as me. He felt the same way as me, and talked the same way as me. And now I've met people like that, and that's powerful in itself. And you feel like you've got, there's other people out there. You're not alone. Um, and yeah, you feel like you can do something. But then there's also a danger as well that you get in this bubble. Especially on platforms like LinkedIn, you,
Mm-hmm.
you end up with a bubble of people who are all like you, which is a wonderful thing to have. But then are you all just shouting to each other, sort of, and agreeing with each other?
Yeah.
You've got to get beyond that. You've got to reach out beyond, which is partly why I've got my books and partly why I want to go into schools a bit more and that sort of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's finding that, yeah, the ways to reach a wider audience. And like you said, you can't go in and just be confrontational, even though you want to be sometimes. There was a good post about shame the other day. Like shaming people doesn't work, and I don't think I try and shame people. Sometimes you feel like you want to. You just want to say, "My God, what are you doing?" Um,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
like I say, that just makes people defensive, and they just stop engaging, or they start arguing or something. So, but occasionally you get somebody who's not like that, and they say, "Oh, well, you made me think a little bit there," and that's the times when I try and engage with them a little bit more. And
Yeah.
just get them thinking. Because again, if you tell them to do something, they're not going to do it. But like you said, the sowing of a seed is the exact right analogy. You're sowing a seed, and if it grows inside them, then it's there for life. It's not just something that they've been told to do. They understand why they want to do it, and they've got to want to do it as well. Although that said, I would love it if a government or something, came in place and said, right, you're just not doing it. But because
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
save
Yeah.
more lives. That would save more lives more quickly, and that is the aim. But if you want real change, people have got to want it and believe in it, I suppose. And yes, so that is the challenge, I think.
Yeah. Like while you were traveling around the world, were there any wildlife encounters you faced which are still in your memory?
Yeah, well, so many, so many. I mean, the gorillas one sort of stands out. Yeah, I mean, seeing mountain gorillas face to face, you couldn't help but realize how like us they were, especially the young gorillas. It was just like seeing a human child. You know, okay,
Wow.
they can't speak our
Mm.
language or anything, but the way they acted was so very human-like, and they were so very, very gentle. Even
Wow.
like the big males, they could have ripped you apart if they wanted to. And you've
Mm-hmm.
obviously got rangers with you, and they know the animals really well. They're up there all the time with them. They're kind of guarded all the time from poaching and stuff, which is horrendous. Yeah, just that connection was really clear. But so many little things. Even I love insects, for instance, and even just finding an insect in a sort of, I don't know, where you were staying, even like in the garden of a hostel or something. I just go and look for insects. You'd find all sorts of amazing stuff that you never thought
Mm-hmm.
existed. One of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite animals actually is in Madagascar. It's called the giraffe-necked weevil. And
Mm-hmm.
it's basically it's like a beetle, but it's got a huge long neck that kind of
Okay.
sticks up from its
Mm-hmm.
body, and then it's got a sort
Right.
of jointed bit on the other end of it. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
little digger almost. It's an amazing little thing, and say its neck is probably longer than its body. Crazy creature.
Wow.
Utterly fascinating. There's so many wonderful animals like that. And like I say, Australia is a great place to see
Mm-hmm.
iconic stuff like koalas and kangaroos. Very easy to see them.
Mm-hmm.
But I alluded to this before actually. So our first go at going to see a koala, we went to this place where we knew they were going to be. Parked up in the car park, went on this long walk. It was a really hot day,
Mm-hmm.
sweat dripping off. I was constantly looking up in the trees, trying to see if there's a koala here, a koala there. Did about a
Okay.
2 hour walk, totally hot and horrible. Didn't see a single koala. Got back to the car park and there's a koala sat on top of the car.
Wow. Amazing.
And that's how they are. That's how the wildlife is. They've got no particular fear of anything there, so they're kind of just there. Um, Also went to the Galapagos Islands. Very lucky to do that on the way round. Just as we didn't actually plan to do that. We were in Ecuador. We were actually going to get a flight to Venezuela because there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of trouble going on in Colombia at the time. So we were looking at flying across to Venezuela. And we just happened to see on the departures board it said the Galapagos, and we thought, oh, should we go to the Galapagos? And we just said, yeah, yes, let's go because we're never going to get a chance again. It's one of those places again that you spend a fortune, booked this flight to Galapagos. Didn't have anything booked, just stayed for 2 weeks. Booked ourselves on a boat, and we were even allowed to sleep on this
Wow.
boat while we were
Wow.
waiting for all the tourists from America that came a couple of days later. So we got the best room on the boat, which I felt a bit bad about. Yeah, then all these other folk came from all around the world. Probably spent thousands and thousands of dollars getting there. And yeah, we went on this week long trip around the Galapagos, which is extraordinary. And again, it's the same thing. There's no predators. Wildlife's just everywhere. Just even when you arrived, there was just gannets plunging into the water around the little boat that we came in on. Just everywhere you looked, there was just wildlife. It was just amazing. And yeah, quite unspoilt, I think. There's quite a lot of tourists, to be fair. And again, there's a really difficult balance between, tourism and, letting nature just do its own thing. But, we were there. Um, yeah, so loads of encounters there. I had my first shark encounter there. This was quite a funny one as well. So I was a bad swimmer at this point. This was before we got to Bora. So I
Okay.
wasn't confident swimmer at all. All the other guys wanted to swim, so they all went on a little snorkeling trip over somewhere else.
Okay.
And I didn't go snorkeling. I just stayed on the beach and looked at stuff on the beach and stuff. Then everyone comes in out of the water, and I think they're having lunch or something. So the guys were serving lunch, and somebody shouted. I was down paddling in the water, and everyone else was up at the top of the beach. And somebody shouted, "Shark! Shark! Shark!" And so when somebody shouts shark to you, my instinct is to run. So I started running out of the water. Everybody else ran into the water to go and swim with this shark. And it was only like a sort of 3 foot shark or something. But
Okay.
it's just that instinct of shark. And I've snorkeled with sharks since then, and I'm quite confident with them. But it's just when somebody
Really?
shouts shark at
Wow.
you and you're stood in the water, you just think, all right, I've got to get out of the water. So I was a bit embarrassed.
I think you're one of the luckiest people of the world. You're the 1% of the world who's got to taste nature so closely.
Absolutely, yeah, totally lucky, yeah. And again, I do recognise it's a privilege of having grown up in a wealthy country.
Yeah.
I can't repay it all, but like I said, I was traveling independently. I feel like I did spend my money locally, and I did support a lot of local businesses and economies, with my money.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't feel too bad about that.
Nice. Could I ask you
And
15
it,
friendly
and like you say, it's
questions?
shape. Sorry.
No, please continue. Continue.
Oh, well, I'd like to think it's kind of shaped who I am as well in many
Yeah,
ways. So
definitely.
yeah. Mm.
I think, do you see yourself as a school teacher few years down the line, as an educator?
You know what? I did teacher training actually, man. And I wanted to go into primary school teacher training because that's the age of kids that and I did go into primary schools quite often. This was sort of 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Really wanted to do that, but it was oversubscribed at the time, so I had to do secondary instead. And I didn't do so well at secondary. When they're that age, there's a lot of discipline issues and stuff, especially in this country, I'll
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
I struggled with that a little bit, and I wasn't teaching stuff that I wanted to teach particularly. And I'll be honest, I found a lot of met, I've connected with a lot of educators and teachers who are quite into their environment and animal rights and all this stuff. And there's a lot of frustration out there about what they've been told to teach, and they don't feel like they're permitted to teach what they want to teach in a way. So in a way, what I'm thinking really, what I'm planning, what I've kind of started is going into schools independently, not as a teacher, but as, just to present stuff, which, schools are always open to, and to get kids thinking about animals and their effect on the planet and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. Because I think it's a real thing that's missing. And in fact, what one thing I saw I took my daughter, she's moving up to secondary school this coming year. So they did an open day. So all the primary kids went up to the secondary school with the parents just to see what it's like. And there was one thing in the cooking class. They had all these sheets out on the table, and it was about how dairy is produced. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna have a read of how they're t teaching how dairy is produced. So it's to be fair, it said some certain things I didn't think it would say. It said that cows would be artificially inseminated, and then they would give birth, and then they would produce milk, and that was basically it. So it didn't. It sort of glossed over the bit where the calf. Where's the calf gone? I kind of imagined kids saying, "Oh, what about the calf?" But I don't
Yeah.
expect they ever did. So that got me
Mm-hmm.
thinking. Yeah, well, they're not teaching the whole story in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of ripples through everything. So, I mean, to me, these are things that everybody must know. Everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to know about how precious the world is, and what damage we're doing, and how little of nature is left, and how much land we've taken over with farming, and it's just not common knowledge. It's almost seen as a hobby. Like sustainability is seen as a hobby. Um, it's everybody. Everybody should be interested in sustainability. Everybody should be interested in protecting the planet and protecting wildlife and all this stuff. It's not just for some people. It's important.
All of us live on this planet, right? It's everybody's house. It's everybody's home.
Yeah, exactly. It's our home, and we're destroying our home. Like you would not treat your own house the way that we treat the earth as a
Hmm.
home. You just wouldn't treat your own house like that. And yeah,
That's
that's a
true.
lovely way of thinking of it as well. And
Hmm.
it's not just our house as well. It's everything's house.
Actually, yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So
So,
yeah, I like that
hmm,
as an analogy. And there's no alternative as well. This is it. This is the only chance we get. There's no escape. There's no second chance. There's no other, habitable planets to go and visit.
there's no second chance. That's true.
No second chance. And it's so unbelievably, spectacularly, uniquely precious. You know, how can you not see that? How can you just live in this bubble where you're just living your life, eating things and buying things, and just some people you do want to shake them and just say,
Yeah,
go outside and look at stuff outside. Again, it comes down to screens, and there's another problem, and AI as well is getting in the way of that a bit as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We live so much of our lives artificially, and we don't need to. We need to live naturally.
Right. If you don't mind, can I ask you 15 friendly questions?
Absolutely, yeah, God, yeah. If
Hmm.
we've got 40 minutes,
No, we'll wrap it up sooner than 40 minutes.
yeah.
Uh, what was your favorite animal growing up?
Ant.
Wow, that's unique. Why was that?
I just loved ants. I used to go in my garden, and admittedly when I was younger I probably tortured them and did horrible things to them sometimes. but I grew out of that. And I've always loved ants. I think that we've got a lot to learn from ants. Incredibly intelligent creatures, incredibly collaborative. Kind of all for one attitude.
Yeah. That's true.
Great,
That's true.
really adaptable.
Mm,
I love ants. I would never kill an ant these days. If I see a kid killing an ant, I don't get angry, but I point out that they shouldn't do it.
mm,
Yeah, my
yeah,
kids would never kill ants. I
right.
love ants, and again, I had the privilege of seeing them in places, more natural places, like in the rainforest. We found lots of leafcutter ants, and I could just spend hours just watching how they behave and how different ants have different jobs and all this sort of stuff. It's really fascinating creatures.
Yeah. If you could return to one place from your world travel list tomorrow, where would it be?
Well, you know what? It'd actually be Iceland, which wasn't on my world travels. Iceland would be my top.
Wow.
From the world travels, probably Madagascar. Madagascar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was the most unexpected moment during your travels, if you remember anyone?
Most unexpected. Mm.
Maybe you met a celebrity, maybe you.
Oh, well, your celebrity. That's a good one. So when we were in the Galapagos, was it in the Galapagos? Yeah, I think it was. Before we went on our little boat trip, we did a few just other things, and we went on a little snorkeling trip. And the other person on the trip was Olivia Newton-John.
Mm-hmm. I don't
Do
know
you
who
know
she or
Olivia
he is.
Newton-John? Olivia Newton-John was in Greece, the lady in Greece, Australian actress.
Okay.
She's quite famous. You know John Travolta?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was with John Travolta in Greece. Um,
Wow.
but yeah,
Wow. Okay. Perfect. Uh, what hobbies do you enjoy outside of your writing and activism?
I like playing Scrabble. I play
Okay.
Scrabble online and
Mm-hmm.
music. I listen to music all the time. Partly why I don't need a telly is, I much prefer listening to music.
Okay. Perfect. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh my gosh, the best advice I've ever received. I don't know. I'll tell you what has come to mind. It's not the best advice for me. I remember the the CEO of the company I used to work for, which is a big company.
Mm-hmm.
He said his best career advice was to specialize in something. And I remember thinking at the time that I did the opposite of that. I diversified and I got involved in so many different things. Even in the job I was doing there, I was doing multiple different things, and I kind of felt like that was a good thing to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
his advice was specialize in something. But to me, if you specialize in something and it works out, yeah, that's great. But if you specialize in something you can't use it, then it's not great advice, is it?
Yeah. So you're more like a jack of all person.
I would totally describe myself as a jack of all trades. Yeah, even at school, I was good at all subjects. I was great at maths. I was good at drawing. I was good at
Mm-hmm.
languages,
Okay.
sciences.
Wow.
I didn't like history, hated history, and still rubbish at history. But yeah, loved music, loved art, everything. Yeah, in fact, I loved school to be honest. But yeah, and since then, yeah, in a way, partly because almost can do anything, it's kind of meant I've not had a sort of great career in some senses. I quite like my career that I've had, but in terms of a sort of traditionally successful career, I've not had a successful career. But I've
Mm-hmm.
always been able to sort of move on to do something different or use my skills in a different way.
Okay, perfect. What message do you want your children to take away the most from your books? Children in general, in like children who are reading your books, what message do you want them to take away with them?
Just to love the planet and love animals.
Perfect. I had a rapid fire round as well. Uh,
Yeah, go for it.
tea or coffee?
Coffee,
Sunrise or sunset?
sunset.
Mountains or oceans?
Oh gosh, mountains.
Favorite vegan meal?
Red Thai curry.
Okay. And favorite vegan restaurant, if there's any particular in the list?
I don't have any here, to be honest. So no, I don't have a favorite vegan restaurant. No.
Okay. Music or books?
Music.
One word to describe Earth.
Precious.
If you could talk to one animal species, which one would it be?
Oh, well, funny, this came up on LinkedIn the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a weird one. Shrimps.
Why though? Why shrimps?
Why shrimps? Well, there were two reasons. I do love shrimps. Shrimps are brilliant.
Okay.
But they're probably the species that we kill the most of, and I would like
Yeah.
to sort of try and explain myself to shrimps and apologize for
Perfect,
the way we
perfect.
treat them.
Which is your favorite environmental documentary?
Uh, Penguins.
Penguins. All right. If you could plant one tree anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Hmm. Probably Madagascar again, please. I think, yeah,
Hmm.
Madagascar.
Perfect. And one word you hope describes the future of our planet?
Empathy.
Perfect. So I think the meeting ends in 3 minutes, and I'll be just doing the outro of the conversation if you don't mind.
Mm.
So, Mr. Matt, thank you so much for your precious, precious time. I'm really happy that you joined us today. And to me, again, if I had to say, you look like a very open person. So, one quote which I remember after listening to you is, we are feeling beings who think, we are not thinking beings who feel. So, you are that kind of a person. Your heart is greater than your brain. Like, your heart is louder than your brain.
Yeah, I love that. That's a lovely way of putting it. Mm.
And again, you're softly passionate. I think if I had to describe you in one word, it would be being softly passionate about things. And
Mm.
I just hope all your books get to all the students over the world, around the world. People get the message you're trying to send them. Your daughters help you with everything as they grow up. Your daughters turn vegan. And yeah, that's about it. I just hope best of luck to you for all your ventures. And if anytime during our lives, if there's an opportunity to meet you, I would love to meet you in person because you seem a very cool person. You're really cool.
Oh, oh, that's very
Yeah.
kind of you, man. No, thank you as well for the opportunity. So, like I said, I don't. Probably the first time I've done this, to be honest. I've been in sort of groups and stuff, but yeah, just a one-on-one chat is really nice.
No, but I think you should do it more often with people who are into social media so that you can spread your message so like
Yeah,
virtually as well.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Thanks again for the opportunity, and yeah, thanks for your kind words there.
Yeah.
Kindness. There you go. Kindness is another thing that's free, isn't it? So
Yeah. Kindness is free. That's true. Happy Easter to you and hope your family is very healthy. Please be safe and keep healthy.
brilliant. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Brilliant.
so much for joining.
Right. Excellent. Right. Cheers for now.
Cheers. Yes, sir. Thank you.